Hello and welcome back to Call to the Pen as part of the Hammer Betting Network. It's been a while since we did one of these. I'm Alex Moretto, joined by Jason Weingarten, better known as Spreadapedia, and today we're going to talk about the World Baseball Classic. It's been a fun tournament for the last few weeks or so, and we're heading into the final tonight. Going to be a great game. So first off, though, Jason, how you doing?
Pretty good. How's it going?
Yeah, can't complain. I'm still buzzing from that game last night. That was pretty wild. Did you end up watching it twice, like you said you were going to?
Yeah, so I've been in Vegas the last 5 days or so. I got back yesterday, and being in Vegas 5 days, it catches up to you. Like it just inevitably you get old enough that you just can't do Vegas nonstop anymore. And I'm not even talking about partying. I'm just talking about gambling for like 4 or 5 straight days.
Yeah.
But so I got back and I finally fell asleep yesterday afternoon, and I missed all of Roka Sasaki's start. I didn't see a single pitch. I woke up the first play. I put my glasses on, and I look up, and a Rosarena's at the wall. I'm like, oh, I literally didn't have my glasses on. I go, that looks like a home run. I'm like squinting, put my glasses on. Nope. Randy jumps up, grabs it. That was my introduction to the game. I still need to go back and watch the Sasaki start, but what I heard was essentially he gave up one bad pitch, which resulted in the 3-run home run. But otherwise, he was electric. And when I woke up and started watching the game, I did not think Japan necessarily was in a great position. Even being down 3 runs, it's not the end of the world. But I thought maybe Mexico was really going to get through, and then they came back, and another great game in a tournament that's given us world-class baseball, better than anything we're going to see in the next couple months. The best baseball of the year, with exception to potentially tonight, has already been played until September or October, and it's unfortunate that more people aren't watching, but the people who have been treated to some shows.
Yeah, and unfortunately, some of the people who aren't watching seem to want to cancel the tournament because of some of these injuries that have happened. Where apparently injuries don't happen in spring training or in practice or anything like that. Just at the World Baseball Classic, injuries happen. So that's been frustrating. But like you said, I mean, there's been at least 4 or 5 games of this tournament that have probably, like, at the end of the year when all is said and done, will be like top 10 baseball games of the year. It's just been unbelievable. The talent on display, the emotion, the passion. These fans have been great. It's been so awesome to see so far. Anything that from this tournament that's surprised you, or players have obviously Rosarena has been unbelievable. Turner's had a great tournament. Any teams that have impressed you? Any other players that have impressed you, or anyone that was a bit of a disappointment for you so far?
A lot of the bottom tier teams, like even as far down as the Czech Republic, Nicaragua, Israel, Great Britain, Canada, they all came into the tournament with absolutely zero expectations, and they didn't necessarily all win a lot of games, and nobody advanced out of pool play, but I thought there'd be a lot more walkovers in the first round, and there weren't for the most part. I just think it showed the progress that baseball is making around the world, that a team of not even professionals from the Czech Republic can go and play against Japan. And what did you expect to happen? They were going to get blown out, and they did. But there's something to be said for these teams showing up and competing when there's no reason for them to. And I was impressed with Great Britain. I thought they had nothing to play for essentially, and they came out and won a game. I think they beat Colombia, right?
Yeah, they beat Colombia. They covered the run line pretty easily against the U.S. They covered the run line pretty easy against Mexico. It was just that Canada game that didn't go great for them. But yeah, I mean, Great Britain, great showing. Colombia, obviously, a very impressive showing. Panama, had some big moments as underdogs. Czech Republic as well. We saw just how profitable a lot of these smaller, or I guess not necessarily smaller nations, but less talented teams, just how well they showed and how well these dogs were covering these inflated run lines all the way throughout. Like Nicaragua getting these plus 8.5s and stuff against Venezuela and Dominican. And like, they were able to hang. We saw Israel hang quite a bit. Great Britain, like you just mentioned. Same thing with Australia. I mean, Australia went out and beat South Korea, which was really unexpected and impressive. I didn't think many people had them coming out of the pool. So yeah, overall, just the gap is obviously, and you look at these rosters on paper, the gap between the top and the bottom is massive, but it didn't necessarily translate it at the tournament. I thought these lesser teams were able to hang, and and now we're going to be treated to an incredible final tonight. I'm looking forward to that. I'm just trying to get what the line is now here. It looks like, so most places, I know Penny opened around like minus 116 or so with Japan, like plus 103. I think a lot of books sort of open around there. And now we saw pretty quickly, we saw a lot of money come in on Japan. Like they were flipped to favorites at one point. I think we saw like some minus 108 on Japan at Penny, and Circa didn't move as much. Superbook not as much either. But now we've kind of settled it back in where the money's come back in on the States. We're sort of sitting at minus 125-ish, plus 105 for in favor of US right now, heading into this final. A total around 10. Are you looking at anything tonight? Anything that kind of jumps out to you for this final that you're going to be invested in?
Yeah. You mentioned the run lines, by the way, the inflated run lines. I very rarely bet a ton of run lines, on day-to-day basis in MLB. But this tournament, I was finding myself betting them, not every game, but multiple times a day, like you were saying. Nicaragua getting a touchdown in a baseball game, like, sure, I'll take it. Like, and there were times I laid, 4.5 runs, 6.5 runs with the Dominicans. It's a different, I like it because it's a different sort of style of thinking about baseball sometimes. But you mentioned tonight, I have Japan already on the futures. So I got, 3-1, 2.5-1. It's like having the money line now, Japan at a bigger number. Gives me the opportunity to bet Team USA if I want, which I have not yet. I have bet a little bit on the total. I bet under 10 because that's a lot of runs, even if we're assuming that this is a juiced ball, which it very well might based on the the scoring in the last couple games. I mean, the USA Venezuela game, the USA Cuba game, last night's game were all double-digit runs, with stuff with runs to spare. But 10 runs, you're telling me I'm getting an under 10 on a game with an elite Japanese pitcher and potentially both Yu Darvish and Shohei Ohtani available to pitch. Even knowing that Merrill Kelly is starting for the U.S. and I assume everybody's available except please no more Daniel Bard. Please, just no. I'm going to go under 10. Maybe we see a crazy offensive game, but I'm hoping we get a replay of the 2016 semifinal at Dodger Stadium where Team USA won 2-1. Obviously I'm rooting for my Japan future, but I really just want to see another exciting game and an under.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we'll see. I mean, obviously this is, being a final, you're not going to leave any stone unturned. So it would surprise me if we don't see Ohtani and Darvish come in out of the pen and pitch tonight. The U.S. pitching does scare me a little bit. So I didn't get any pre-flop positions on Japan. I had a lot of positions on Venezuela, which I thought I was a little bit unlucky not to have them in the final right now. I think maybe they handled the bullpen a little bit differently. They could have gotten by the U.S. and I think they would have beaten Cuba pretty easily. But anyways, nonetheless, I digress. They're not here. So I didn't get any pre-flop on Japan. I did add a good amount yesterday, though. There were some, plus 185s up to plus 200 on them to win the tournament before the Mexico game, before the semifinal. So I got in on a bunch of that. So I do have a position on Japan. If I didn't, though, I would lean Japan here at this price. For me, obviously the hitting edge is pretty massive towards the U.S. and it seems insane to bet against the U.S. in, Miami right now. Obviously the fan support is going to be crazy. Japan doesn't have the best representation here, but the pitching edge for me is significant. I'm just not, obviously, like, if the US brought all the best pitchers they could bring, it would be unbelievable. But I'm just not a huge fan of what they have right now compared to the arms that Japan can throw out there. And the Japan lineup, obviously not at the same level as this US lineup, but they have a lot of really smart hitters. They play small ball really well. They make a lot of good contact. And I just think that this is a little bit too high. I was expecting a little bit more of like a 110, 110-ish, or maybe like minus 115, minus 105. So I think we're getting a little bit of value. That's just my 2 cents. If I didn't have a pre-flop position here, I would be in on Japan at some of these like plus 110s or so that are available. I don't know if you have any thoughts on the side here or you disagree with that, but that's kind of where my head's at right now.
My plan was to get Japan into the final, where I assumed they would be playing Team USA, the Dominicans, and it ended up being pretty much exactly how I thought it would go. If I had to bet it today, I would probably take Team USA. Hasn't really changed for me. It's the same sort of. Every time you look at the lineup, you see Mookie Betts and Mike Trout batting 1-2, and all the way down to Trey Turner batting ninth. It's like, all right, I don't care who's pitching. We can put, we can put Patrick Corbin out there and win the World Baseball Classic. Yeah, it would be better if the U.S. could get some of the top tier pitching to represent the country, but the guys who are there are still pretty serviceable. As long as we don't get a Daniel Bard appearance tonight, I think everybody will be happy.
That Daniel Bard outing against Venezuela was truly something.
Yeah, and that's the thing is you mentioned Venezuela. I didn't bet Venezuela this tournament because I actually bet Venezuela in the 2016 tournament, and it was the same thing. Oh, look at this roster. Look at the pitching. They're actually really good. I got burned on them in 2016, and this time I was like, I'm just not going to get on that horse. I let other people do it, and you guys kind of got a little farther than I did, I think, but ended up the same. I think that game, the U.S. Venezuela game, that they did compete. Don't get me wrong. The U.S. opened up with 3 runs at the top of the first inning, and they came back with a 2-run homer in the bottom of the first. So it's not like they were really out of it. I was able to get some Venezuela plus 3.5 at one point. Like literally, I think it was the top of the first inning. That was cool. But in hindsight, when you're looking at that game and Daniel Bard and everything, like other than Bard coming in and just basically giving Venezuela the lead for no reason, I don't think the U.S. was really ever in trouble, especially once it got to bullpens. And Trey Turner got the meatiest meatball of all time.
That was,
the sportsbook, the Circa sportsbook, started a USA chant after that grand slam. So there's no way they were losing after that. It was, that was a great game. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, Bracco put that on a platter. I think if maybe if they had Alvarado up a little earlier and he was ready, maybe it's different just based on how he came in and pitched. But again, like even if they get out of that inning
you
with
still
him,
would have had to face Trout and Mookie Betts.
Yeah, even if
in the
you,
ninth
yeah,
inning, and that's the thing. You're gonna have to do that tonight too. So all these people saying, is Ohtani gonna pitch? Absolutely, he's gonna pitch. He's gonna pitch in the most important moment of the game if it gets there. They've basically telegraphed it. The Angels general manager, they asked him today, is Ohtani allowed to pitch in the final? He says it's up to him. So there's literally nothing in his way as far as I can tell, which is another aspect of this game is, we get to watch Ohtani and Trout play against each other for once, and we might even get to see him pitch against him, which should be one of the highlights of the year for baseball if it happens.
Yeah. The last thing I wanted to touch on was also Darvish, because Darvish obviously will be coming in this game, probably pitching a couple innings. I've seen a lot of people talk about his, like, some of the U.S. hitters' stats against Darvish. He's been hit hard by Trey Turner. He's been hit hard by Kyle Schwarber. For me, I don't put much stock into that stuff at all. Things change so much. These arsenals change. Like, I'm not really buying into the fact that, Trey Turner's 7 for 20 with 2 homers for him. Schwarber has 3 career homers against Darvish, including that one, in the NLCS last year. Do you put any stock into something like that? Or is that something you think you can just sort of throw by the wayside and, chalk it up to variance or something like that?
Well, so the thing with Team Japan for me is that they have a relationship with Driveline, and they're advised by Driveline. I'm assuming they have some sort of daily frequent communication and discuss strategy one way or the other. Um, Obviously they're getting top tier advice on advanced analytics and what's the best way to do this, and they've determined that the best way to do this is to start Shugo Amara, I think, and bring Darvish in at a different spot in the game. They're obviously not doing this out of panic, or this is a very well thought out move. I don't know the calculus behind it, but I'm sure they've put serious thought into it. So the numbers against those guys don't necessarily bother me, but I also wouldn't necessarily bring him in to face a guy that he's historically bad against. Maybe they're going to try to bring him in at a certain part of the lineup, or maybe one time through the order. There's all sorts of different calculus going on there with how to use pitchers, but it wouldn't surprise me. You're trying, if you can always get 5 innings out of your starting pitcher, that's great. If you can get 3 or 4 out of this guy, that's nice. But then I think maybe you're looking at Darvish one time through the order maximum. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you have your computer handy or anything. You can pull up his stats time through the order. Maybe you can glean something from looking at that, but I don't have that handy. But I would imagine if Darvish could do his job one time through the order, then Ohtani is going to be there to finish out the game. Potentially he comes in if there's any high leverage spot in relief, especially to face the top of the lineup, the Trout, Mookie, Goldschmidt, Arenado combo. I would no doubt expect Ohtani to come in, and if Japan is in a situation to win the game, you are going to turn to your best pitcher, mm-hmm. and that's Shohei Ohtani. So keep that in mind, that we're going to see him tonight if there's a opportunity for him to come pitch.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. Some of the best players in the world going out in this game, playing for their country, and the fans are going to be great. I'm looking forward to this one. I wouldn't be surprised that if the line moves a little bit more towards the U.S. as we get closer to game time. So I think that if you're looking to back Japan, maybe you can wait a little bit as more money flows in on the U.S. Maybe you can get a bit of a better price. I don't think you're really in danger of getting too much of a worse price. So that's maybe another way.
What'll be interesting to see is if any of the accounts, the DraftKings and FanDuels and whatnots, tweet about percent of handle on Team USA, because I imagine a bookmaker or Pinnacle might get some international action and some mm-hmm. more sharp action, but you have to imagine at the rec level, you probably are drowning in Team USA money today.
Yeah. So that wouldn't be surprised if that creates some off-market prices, at least compared to the market makers too, as we get closer to game time. So just another thing to look out for. Make sure you're shopping around, looking for the best price with whatever you're going to get on. Always something we want to preach here is making sure you're getting the best price. But yeah, enjoy the game tonight. And thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to Call to the Pen on YouTube. We're going to have another one of these videos coming out either later today or tomorrow, depending on when you're watching this, talking about, all things MLB spring training, win totals, futures, all that good stuff. So yeah, make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe. And Jason, thanks for joining me, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you.